Hello and welcome to Drinks and Drive. We're Drive and here are our drinks.
Yeah.
Cracking. Cool. So today we're talking about our upcoming single, which when this video comes out will be a day or two after, called HERNE THE HUNTER. And so yeah, we're kind of just talking about the process of recording that and the general feel of the song, I guess, because we're super excited about it, aren't we, guys?
We are.
Yeah.
So how did you start writing it then?
So
What was the inspiration for it?
it was a riff, and it started.
No, the
No, it was that came later, but
okay.
just the boom, but down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that came first. And I remember I was messing around with it when Jim came over to.
Yeah, we were here tinkering with it, weren't we?
Yeah, because I think you were coming over to record some bass, and I'd just come up with it that morning, and I was playing around with it, and then you gave it the down. So it was, I had like down, and then you were like down. I was like yeah, sweet, and then we just kind of messed with it that way. And then
What about the lyrics? Like, did anything?
the lyrics. So I was really into kind of these kind of mythical deities and stuff like that, and I didn't want to sing a song about Thor or Odin or like a massively represented god. I wanted to shine some light. Yeah, I wanted to shine some light on something that no one's really spoken about. I mean, I didn't know who HERNE THE HUNTER was, and I think I wanted to, when I had the idea to talk about kind of a god or a mythical being that wasn't a well-known god, I just kind of did some research, and I was like, I need British kind of like forest gods and shit like that, and I came across HERNE THE HUNTER, and
Is it like a pagan god then, or something like that?
I don't know, to be honest.
I
I
didn't
do that much research.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, he was from what I know, because he turns up in Shakespeare. That's the main thing that people know him from, right?
Right. Yeah. And Robin Hood.
He was. I think it was based on a real person.
Might just bring that mic closer to you. Yeah.
But I think it's based on a real person who was like a ranger, like park ranger in Windsor or something like that, which is like when obviously where the kings and queens lived, and then I think he died, and everyone said, "Oh, you can still hear him roaming around," or something.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I love the imagery of him, which is the like the kind of a man, but with some. I mean, some people see it with the whole head of a deer, but the one I really like is kind of him in a hooded cloak with deer horns and antlers and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's the one.
And I think like we should probably like mention the graphic that we got done for that single as well, because it's kind of, there's a lot of imagery in that song, but actually like we got a kind of visual thing that goes alongside it as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the EP, well, it's not an EP; it's a single. It's only one song. The single cover. A guy, our friend Connor, who did it. If you look him up on Instagram, we've tagged him in stuff. His name is at Conrico Stees. He designed our logo, prints our t-shirts, and designed the single cover.
It looks sick.
It does look great, yeah. And like, because the logo, the Drive logo, we've kind of named him. Jim came up with the name Ivan. So he's our guy, and kind of. I like incorporating him as much as possible, and I think doing an Ivan HERNE THE HUNTER mashup was the way to go for the single cover. So yeah, I think when listening to the song, look at the cover and imagine everything in that song is happening to the character you see on the cover. That's kind of the link there between the visual and audible. Audible.
Isn't it Amazon?
That's not an ad. They don't fucking pay us. Yeah.
Well, like for me, I like you were saying, you were playing around with that riff, and we had a go at it, and then the next thing that I heard was that you turned up with basically the completed song, and it was instantly one of my favorite Drive tracks. It's like it's such a instantly recognizable riff, but I think everybody had loads of fun doing Herne because it almost wrote itself. Like once you'd laid down that really sort of basic structure of it.
I think it definitely came together the easiest, didn't it? Of all the songs that we've done, I mean, all of them come together quite easily, but I think
more and more so, like the longer we are together, and like kind of because we all know what we do and like how it works. But yeah, I mean, songs like Herne, they just do themselves, you know. They're just like I didn't. It feels like it was almost too easy, kind of thing. Like trying to add, but then like you get to the point where you're adding shit that shouldn't be there, you know, and you're like, no, I need to just step back and be like, this is a good fucking song, and leave it there. But yeah, I think from initial riff to how we play it now and how the recording sounds was such a small window of time. It was kind of
it was really
quickly. Really quickly.
But I mean, I think that's the mark of a good song, and especially good for the band, you know, because I think because someone can come together quickly because they're good songs, but for everyone having their own input in it, it's that collectively as a band, it was a good song for us, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're all. I mean, I am. I mean, I'm sure we all are just super excited for you guys to hear it. And I mean, it'd be great to know what you guys think. And because at the end of the day, this is Strongest Feet Forward. And we're back. Sorry about that. Fucking living life with actually the fucking computer's pretty new. And it keeps last time it cut out, I'm sure from the last video you'll see it, but hopefully it won't do it again because it only happened once last time, so
let's soon find out.
You'll see our please stand the fuck by but so what were we talking about? Herne the Hunter.
How it came together quite quickly.
Yeah, I think, and
I think also it's like lyrically, it's unique in the songs that we're doing. Certainly the ones that we're going to be playing live and putting on the album, because it's completely, like you said, it's completely mythical. It's a completely imaginary thing, but it's also based on. It's more of a shed light song as opposed to the normal songs I write are kind of about.
You're right there, Ben.
Yeah, so it's like the mic stand's just like, ooh. Droopy mic stand.
The normal songs we write, or the normal songs I write, I'm usually talking about something that I'm thinking about, and I'm not really. I mean, we spoke about this before with the last one, but the process, and I think Herne is definitely.
But I remember you saying to me, you said that you were at that point, because I mean, everything was a little bit dark at that point for you, wasn't it? And you were kind of trying to write outside yourself rather than taking inspiration from within, which was all a little bit scary. You know. Yeah, definitely. I think, and I think that makes. So I think, I mean, it is, and it's a testament to the power of creativity. I think it's even in a time where you want to be creative, but all you can think about is, I don't know, some bad times. Then
sometimes that's the best time to get creative.
Yeah, but I mean, but if it's too painful to look at it, then you can look somewhere else and find it. Yeah, just Google British deities. You write a good song.
Well, it's from my point of view, it's like lyrically, it's one of my favourites. I love the drums on Herne. I think that's amazing.
I think we need to spend a whole bunch of time talking about the drums on Herne.
I mean, it starts with the drum solo. The thing is, it's one of those things where I don't even know where, like, whose idea. I'm sure it must have been your idea because it wasn't my idea. And yeah, and I suppose the way that it's subdivided is, I mean, I spent ages trying to work out like technically how you write down that drum fill, and I can't.
Yeah, you know, I was speaking to, because I go to music college, and I got this coaching in music theory and shit.
Hang on, explain what you actually study.
I study classical music. I'm a classical singer as well. I'm studying classical singing as well as having drive. But I was speaking to someone about that, and I showed him the track, and I was like, "How do you subdivide this? The dub divide? Too many drinks, I think." Yeah, how do you subdivide this solo? And he was like, "It's not a strange subdivision. It's just you've got accents. You've sporadically put the accents around, so you're not hitting the ones every time you highlight it." But
so what it is, I'll say what it is. So basically, it's depending on where you feel the pulse. I mean, I feel it there for like do 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 do. The way that that solo kind of is, it's a quarter note triplet. So you've got like, but
you're just clicking and slapping your thigh.
So you know what I mean. So if you get like,
yeah.
So, but then you just put a further triplet on each of them.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, and so like, if you felt the pulse twice as fast. So if you were like, it'd be like a non-tuplet, but you're not. And
what was that word?
A non-tuplet. So a non-tuplet is nine notes.
It's like a triplet in the 9.
Yeah, but so like a non. So like you have triplets.
So 9 notes in the space of 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So triplets are 3 notes. A sextuplet is 6.
Yeah.
And then you have like quintuplets, which are 5. And like
non-tuplets,
which are 9.
Sounds like there's no notes though. Like.
Non-tuplets.
I play non-tuplets all the time.
So I mean that, but I can't even remember how we arrived there. To be fair, like
I think I was
actually
that is a testament to how I actually came up with the riff. Was I was listening to I knew that was it. That's how this all happened because. The riff of Herne came about because I was listening to drum solos. So I can't remember what song it was. It might have been Stargazer by Rainbow. And like I heard the drum solo, and then I was like, what riff would justify that? Yeah. And then I was like, okay, so the drum solo, and I think I played it on my computer and then paused it and then quickly played the Herne riff. Nice. And I was like, yeah, that fits. And I was like, yeah, it's like that kind of. And so I think when we did it in the room, and then I was like, it has to have a drum solo at the beginning. And I think I did my usual drum direction of just. So basically, it has to go. And then I come in.
I have to interpret it.
But you do it exactly every time, and I'm like, man, this guy's inside my head.
No, it's I mean, I'm fine, obviously, with a song opening with a drum solo. I don't get to do stuff like that very often.
Yeah.
So
it's
nice for me. Yeah. I mean,
could you pass me one whiskey, Dave? The Maker's Mark.
Fucking.
It's Christmas time, as you can see by the Christmas tree. We've got Christmas whiskey. Well, yeah, so it's December. We're having fun.
But yeah, I mean, and if we're sticking on drums, I mean, we can chat a bit more about it. So, I mean, the way the drums are, they're not too complicated. And originally, when they were sort of conceived, not too like complicated. It's a fairly basic beat, a few fills and stuff. But when we actually sat down to record it in my studio, the guy I share my studio with had just bought some like effects and so like a little splash. Like a china and like an ozone crash with loads of like holes in it and stuff, and I was like, well, it fits the genre. Like I may as well leave it there. And definitely. So I did like a safe take and laid everything down as I've been playing it in the rehearsal room, and then we were like, let's play around. Let's do a couple more takes. You incorporate in some of these elements, and I think. like 90% of that take pretty much stayed. Like, I don't think that we did much flipping between takes.
No.
No, not really.
And I mean, I think that's definitely... Actually, to be fair, I mean, a lot of our recording, and this, like, especially when doing Herne, and we did like a... I mean, I'm sure you can find the videos, but we kind of did a whole album's worth of songs, drum-wise, in like 2 or 3 days.
I think it was 2 days.
2 days, yeah.
Yeah. It was
And
quick.
there's videos online on our like, Instagram and Facebook and stuff of I think I took them off YouTube for whatever reason. But yeah, they're all online, and it just shows you in the room whilst we were doing them because Ben's got a studio that he shares with his friend, and yeah, we just smashed them all out. And yeah, Herne, I remember the drum solo, and I remember being.
Is that the one where you tried to put the GoPro on the drums, but it just kept falling
that was
over?
Man in Black.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. 'Cause I remember watching the video. It was like boom, 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 boom. Yeah,
It's gone.
yeah, no, but yeah, Herne just kind of went like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we spent much time on it at all.
It was literally just a safe take and then a couple of takes of being a bit more adventurous. But I think they flavour the song really. That splash cymbal, like it's, I think there's when it gets like all ethereal and stuff. There's one bit where I hit it instead of the snare.
Yeah.
It's just like.
I mean, you could probably translate that into normal speak. You understood me when I'm like.
Yeah. But yeah, it's it made a big difference.
The other thing that's in Herne is that bass drum, that thing at the end of, you got the breakdown and then you got the doo.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was all you, man. Like, I can't take any.
Yeah,
Of that. Like, I mean, I think so.
still it needed it.
A lot of what happens is when we do the recordings, we track stuff. Like you come up with everything kind of as a rough idea as you want it, and just kind of draw the drums in on Logic. Then we start to use that as a guide and sort of build the track around it. Like, I'll record my part, mute the drums. You record some guitars, mute the drums, and then we kind of sit down and we're like, and we take on the role of producers essentially is what we're doing.
But I mean, yeah, and I think you have more of the technical ability, and I'm just like, yeah, do this, a little bit of boo, and you interpret my gibberish. But yeah, that sub drop. But it is funny. I feel like if we recorded us in a room whilst we're doing it, because it's like, with the sub drop, for example, I was like, so after that after the middle eight, because I think the transition from middle eight, from that like ethereal bit in the song, going back into the main riff, I think it just felt too harsh, and I was like, how do we separate this? And I was like, what about a sub drop?
And I think initially I was like, no, don't.
No, mate. But no, because like in the moment, like that's what I said. It'd be so funny, like to film it and like maybe even do like a sketch of it. Because like I was like, what about sub drop? And you're like, no, we can't do that. No, we definitely can't do that. But in, like we know, we both
like a monocle and like
no, we like kind of it's. The minute it was said, you're like, I fucking really want to do that.
Yeah,
like,
it was. It's just one of the things you instantly go, nah, you can't. Nah.
Yeah,
but then you saw a lot.
Anyway.
Sometimes
wait a minute, this is our fucking song.
Okay.
Sometimes when Alaric and I are sat in the studio or doing some mixing, it'll be sort of like he'll say something and I'll be like, oh, that won't work. And I'll be like, I'll just try it to indulge him and let him see that it doesn't work. So we did that, but it sounded really fucking good. So I was like, oh. Yeah, no, but yeah, no, good job as well, because it sounds...
Well, I mean, it's
large
all ideas, isn't it, at the time?
Yeah.
But, I mean, so moving on from, like, the initial, like, birth of the riff and the recording aspect, I think the next... I mean, it's hard because like in this situation we're talking, and like if we move it to Dave's part, the middle eight solo, that is like because when I showed it to my mate Will at college, he was like, as soon as that middle eight kicked in, he was like, oh, this is the dry ice moment, like just every bit of dry ice on the planet comes out on the stage at this point, and you come up riding a whale, kind of. So I mean, I guess what happened there? How did that come to be?
So for me, obviously, originally, I mean, you wrote the main kind of like, and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of want to incorporate a little bit of that in this like middle 8 bit. So I took the and I went over the kind of. That's a great description.
Once you've heard the song, like,
you'll know.
Yeah.
Like,
if anything, once you've watched this, if you're watching this before the songs come out, then tough luck. Listen to the song and then watch this again, because it's
So that so the initial kind of bend that I do over, I think it's the last word of your kind of middle 8 section. That came from the basic riff, and I was like, cool, I want to play with this. And then you'd put something down originally that was like bam, 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 bam. And I was like, I quite like that, but I want to beef it up, so octave pedal over that. Kept that a little bit there, and then the kind of bam, bam, the bend in where it goes into the bam, 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 bam. Like
I know exactly what you mean.
Know what I mean.
Was this,
no one else knows.
Was this the bit where we kind of we sat in here for ages because we wanted to get it right, and I think it was something like 30 something takes of just being like.
So originally
that was the
it was that.
Oh yeah,
It was this.
Yeah,
so originally,
I'm fucking stupid.
Yeah, and so originally you wanted it like bam, 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 and I was like, but I don't want to play that. So yeah, I kind of got my own way.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the thing. I mean, I'm a controlling motherfucker. I think it's but like the longer it goes with me being like, no, do it this way. If I've said it like 30 times, then I'm like, oh wait, it's not my job. So then I'm like, yeah, you do it your way, man. Do it how you. As long because I think that's just as long as you can. I always say, like, whenever you're recording or anything, I'm like, can you stand by that? Like, are you willing to defend that in a court of law kind of situation? Yeah. And you're like, yeah. I'm like, sweet. No. Well, I can't argue either then.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, the basic inspiration came from the original riff that you wrote over the kind of like between the verses.
Yeah.
And I took the little bit of the kind of a little bit of what you'd originally written, and just stuck an octave pedal on it essentially, and like we added. You suggested the kind of sliding.
I can't remember.
Well, yeah. Anyway, so that got added in, and then the kind of bits after that, I was like, I want to make it sound sexy, essentially. Like, I was like,
do you find that like in those situations where you've got a really stripped back moment in music, do you find it hard to hold back? And because I mean, obviously in that section, because it's so free, you could have put a million notes in there, and but I don't think that would have been right. I think what you've done is exactly right for where it is.
Yeah, I mean,
do you find that difficult to hold back?
No. So for me, like I've always found like people like Eric Clapton, like although he's not necessarily the most, like he's never going to be like the paciest guitarist or anything like that, but some of the stuff like Wonderful Tonight, like the main riff in that, fucking beautiful, but it's really basic to play.
Yeah,
like that sort of stuff. It's just sexy.
It
was just the way it's played.
Like
so
BB King is
more, so much more power.
Like BB King's like that, because I think
like
you listen to his song, and like I mean, there is no argument from anyone, I think, that's saying that BB King is one of the greatest to have ever lived.
Definitely.
But an R.I.P. to that god of a man. But if you look at his stuff, I mean, there are 12-year-olds on YouTube who are playing much faster, much more technical stuff, but no one can play as perfect.
As
like
sexy.
It's the same with drums, and it's like you just hit it at the right time. The bend is exactly the right place, and it's just it transcends technical ability, and it's more a musical feel.
Yeah.
But I mean, he used to play like 300 shows a year. BB King. Yeah, I think
Fucking
something
hell.
like that, and just
Mental.
would just play constantly, and for like 40 years or however long he was going. I mean, I think at the very end he slowed down, but kind of for majority of his career, he was playing like 300 shows a year, just smashing it out, and like he just got to the point where it was perfect.
So yeah, like it was
Yeah.
just so much like it was just a sexy feel all the time.
So you were channeling the Claptons and the BB
Essentially,
Kings
yeah.
and-
So for me, like I had that kind of
Blues
melody
gods.
in my head originally for quite a little while when I originally heard that kind of outro section, and I was like, right, let's kind of incorporate a little bit of, because what you'd originally written, I was like, some of it is really, really quite nice to be honest. So I was like, let's take a little bit of that.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, darling. So I was like, let's incorporate that and just add a little octave pedal over like that individual section. The rest of it was kind of like, let's essentially have sex with the guitar.
Maybe an acoustic,
stick it in
the
the
hole's
jack
big
hole.
enough. But
Could you defend that in a court of law?
No. But yeah, no. So it was like, it was kind of an inspirational moment where I was like, I want to make this sound like I'm going and just like kind of flowing with it,
Yeah.
like the body motion, like of like, oh, like that feeling.
it's definitely like spotlight moment and kind of
Yeah.
like out on the catwalk. Kind
Yeah,
of like,
and that's kind of what I felt that it needed, but I didn't want to do anything like too quick. I definitely didn't want anything quick, but like,
well, I mean, you say that, but a lot of guitarists would have just been like, "Oh, it's a solo. I have to flex technically. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
have to like show how fast I can go." And
but that's not necessarily the best thing. Like if you look at, for example, I'm bringing
exactly.
Clapton again. Like most of his stuff is not fast. It's not technically difficult, but it just sounds fucking sexy. So,
I know, man, I can't play a lot of Clapton stuff.
but yeah, no. So that's kind of where I drew the inspiration from and where it came
Yeah,
up with what is now written.
fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's it. And I guess like that moves on to Jim,
Yeah.
the bass side of things.
Yeah, well, because like we had that thing where we were sort of working through the riff originally, and I've got a feeling that we also shifted it down to drop D at somewhere in that,
It
right?
was your idea to shift it to drop D.
Right.
I was playing it in standard originally, but I
Yeah.
was like, because I think I was playing it in F, and I was like, oh, it's too high. I can't sing it. But I was like, it needs to be down low. I can move it up to like the octave up of the D, and you were just like, what about drop D? I was like, oh yeah.
But so like I came up with that, which is great for the guitar. But then I was like, oh, now fuck myself because I'm on bass, so I've got to do it an octave up on the bass.
Yeah.
And but then what came out of that is that I had this idea that I was like, technically, there's no reason why you can't do drop D on a bass.
No.
It's just you need a really good bass with good action because the problem is the strings vibrate so much it hits the
The
frets.
corn tone.
So that's what we did for the recording. All of that recording, one of the reasons why that riff I think allows the space for the guitar to drop down quite low is because actually the low E string on the bass has dropped down to a drop D, and it's like just just like vibrating so low. And then if you listen to the mix, you almost can't hear the bass. I think it's like because actually the bass and the guitar are
together. They're like backed up.
Yeah, they're doing a kind of complementary riff together.
We'll touch back on this when we come back because we obviously need to talk about Sam. But we'll come back to that and how well he's blended the two. Yeah, but we'll come back.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I actually played. I played the Master of Herne to my family, and they were like, so like who don't know much about music. They were like, so what are you doing? And I was like, you can kind of hear it. It is in there. I promise you.
It's there, like it's the film when you kind of go the neck. They really sing, like,
that bit.
Yeah,
like
and the
That's
kind of
what I
bits.
mean. Yeah, like
Yeah, but I think the song bass wise was begging for like obviously the main riff to have that backed up because it's like just to add the bass Because I think distinguishing bass from guitar in a riff like that is going to be really hard, because you can't really have the bass supporting the kick drum at that point.
It's one of those things where, like, if you listen to it, you wouldn't. But if you took the bass away, you'd notice instantly.
Yeah, it just sounds super thin.
Yeah.
But under the verses is where the bass really shines, I think. And
But this was another thing, like Ben was saying before, in terms of the recording process, because I think it was just me and you, Al, when we were doing the bass recording for that. And
I managed to not fuck up a recording once. Oh no, I did fuck it up.
Yeah,
and we had to re-record.
Yeah, because of the way the contracts lined up.
So whenever I record shit, when it's just me and Jim, or just me and Dave, I find a way to fuck it up. And so we kind of got a system now where Ben has to be present at all recordings.
You're doing yourself a disservice. It's not too bad, but it's just little things that make.
Yeah, I did fuck it up, but I think we took a lot from what we did that day and translated it when we re-recorded it.
Well, so what I was going to say is that because like we were here in this room recording it, and I think what I'd done and what I tend to do is kind of what Ben was talking about, where you put down a safe take at the beginning. You kind of like, I'm just going to do something that I know is going to work and that we can definitely use.
Yeah.
And then I kind of look over to you, Al, and I go, well, do you want to do some slightly more, interesting stuff? And you're like,
and I'm like,
you're
yes.
Like, yeah. I want you to do crazy stuff all the way through the whole song. I was like, well, I'm sure there's a compromise.
Nah, man, let's go out of key.
Just playing A when you're playing in the A flat.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, but what I remember out of that is like the that riff, that down bow bow.
Yeah.
That was just, I did not plan to do that at all. That was just literally
you
like
completely improvised that.
Yeah. Because you'd gone. It needs something else, and I was like, just hit record and we'll play it. And it's like those kind of things. It's like, actually that's the kind of thing, if you were going in to compose it, there's no way that you would do that particular thing, because it slows down the bass on that point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, melodically and in terms of feel, it just is the right thing.
I find that happens a lot though. Like this happens to me a ton, and just as a player, like, and when you're rehearsing something regularly, you fuck up, and then you like what happened when you fucked up, so then you try and replicate it, and that happy mistake becomes actually one of your favorite bits of the whole. Like, it happens to me all the time, man.
Yeah,
like,
well, I think also it's that thing of like, because with obviously when you're doing these things, you play the song over and over, multiple times, and what happens is that your brain and your hand kind of start working without you thinking about it, and then like at that point when you switch off your conscious mind, then these nice little things happen. But what's great is to have someone in the room like Al who goes, what just happened? Like that thing that you just did right there.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there are moments in the bass of anything we've recorded where I remember when it happened, and like they've always happened. Most of the time, they've happened without prompt. You just like, it's just been like, because the way I am, I don't want anything. I don't want, and I mean, the fact is, Drive is a bass heavy band as well, because I think the bass pulls a lot of weight compared to the standard band where the bass locks in with the drums for the whole time and doesn't deviate. Which is, I mean, there's definitely a place for that, and especially like the faster pace stuff. But for, I mean, stuff like Herne and the stuff like Shadows and Hero as well, you can't really just write that off, like write bass off as a supporting instrument or as part of the rhythm section. It has to have its own voice. And it definitely does in Herne. And yeah, I remember when it was like, ba-bow, bow, ba-dow, bow. I don't even think I heard it when it happened. I think I heard it when listening back, because we did the take of the whole song. Yeah. And I remember I was listening back and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. And I was like, fuck yeah. And I did a comp track of all the takes we did, and I fucked it up and merged and flattened them. So when Ben came over and he was like, okay, I'll mix the bass in. Well, I can't fucking mix this bullshit. He'd be like, yeah, but bam, bam, no, And but then when you came in and re-recorded it, I think it definitely was like there was, because the comp track was there and there was a direction going, and I knew from doing the comp track what I fucking loved about it, and that.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, yeah, I fucking love the way you play, man, because it's just like we do the first take and of just like a basic bass line of the song, literally a bass line. And then when we build upon that, it's all, and yeah, like you say, the moment where you stop thinking about what your hand's doing and it just kind of does its own thing, and when you can mix those in like take by take kind of thing, you get those moments, and that sticks out so much, and it's like, and it really, I don't know, like when you hear a bass line that cuts through everything, you get, it's hard to explain. It just gives you that, like,
burner.
Yeah. Well, that funky feeling, you know. Yeah, I mean, like now you've said boner, it kind of like I can't say anything now. But that like the drive towards the lower end of things, and it realigns everything. So you like as soon as you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, bass, and then then you're listening to it again, and it's the same in Hero with the heartbeat bit. In Hero, in the second verse, when we do it live, there's a whole massive drum fill moment, which is fucking so sick. But in the recording, it's like, there's a fire in your heart. Bass goes, bo bo, bo bo, boo. And just like that moment of breaking shape or breaking trend.
Yeah.
When it comes back into it, you're so much more conscious of the bass at that point. And I think those moments do a reminder that, like, yeah, the bass is happening here is a great, and in Herne that's massive. Definitely works up in there.
Yeah, well, I like part of this for me is that obviously when we originally were playing together, it was just as part of a jam session basically, and I want to I want to make sure that, well, what's nice about recording in the way that we do is that, and about Drive for me in general, is that we do have that almost like a blank canvas mentality. We're not going at it going, this genre of music has to have these particular elements. No. You go in and you go, let's try everything.
Yeah.
Maybe what you need is just a straight, in the case of bass, you just need it like this some of our songs, like A Little More Time and things like that, where you need something very straight down the line. But for a lot of these heavier songs, I'm trying to I'm not trying to, but what ends up happening is that I'm mixing, like you say, quite funky elements that is not really genre specific, but it's something that kind of pops the song in a way that your ear is not expecting, and it kind of, but then I think this is why we should talk about the mix, because actually, like, there were versions of all of the songs that we've released, like the EP, the Shadows, and what's going to come out as Herne. There were versions that I heard where I felt the bass was either too high in the mix or too low or whatever, and you hear it, and then when you hear the final thing, you're like, oh well, that's now it's all, and it makes it difficult for Sam and people like that, because actually what we're doing it's not just you put the fader at one point and you put a certain effect on it and you go, this is how you do this kind of music. It's more dynamic than that, and so
more intricate.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's, we should talk about that.
I mean, I think it's one we can't talk about Herne really and not talk about what. So with the Shadows EP, it was sort of recorded and mixed by me, and we sent it off to Sam for mastering. And some of the notes that he came back to me with, we were kind of just like, if he's got the time and we're willing to pay him, he can, just mix it himself. And he's ridiculously good at what he does.
Amazing.
He works like sort of like lecturing at a university, teaching this sort of thing. So it's sort of bread and butter for him. So when you send in an mix, he can hear straight away what. But he's ridiculously talented and patient, and which
Yeah, but I think like I don't think it would be unfair to say in terms of what we released so far, it's like fifth member of the band.
Oh yeah, no, like I like it with this song particularly. Like what he's done and the way he's transformed it, it's made all the difference. Like you can't, it wouldn't be what it is without him.
Hell, fucking no, yeah. I think we mentioned him before, but maybe do it again. Of how. So his name is Sam Jones.
Sam Jones, yeah. I mean, I was. He doesn't actually have. He's only just started doing freelance stuff,
right?
Like the Oz and a couple of other projects are things that like some of the first that he's picked up as like a sort of freelance, mixing and mastering engineer. I think.
But I mean, if down the road, kind of in a couple of years' time, if someone's watching this or anything like that, then
like, look him up.
Sam Jones.
I'm
sure he'll have a name for
such
himself.
Common names that it's like impossible to. But he would like. I was speaking to him about this, and I was like, "Dude, like, let us give you a shout out. Can you give us some, And he was like, "I should probably set one up, shouldn't I?" And I was like, "Yeah, you should because."
Well, I tell you what. So Sam Jones is the guy to look up. If you like the way Herne sounds, he is the guy who made it sound that way.
At this stage, if there's no link for us to put up, please, if you want, your song to sound as good as Herne, send us a message. We'll pass you on to him, man.
Yeah,
like
and if at a point that when he does have all his links and everything set up, we'll put them in this video on the comment section.
Yeah.
At that point, I think it's pretty much wraps it up.
That's a wrap.
I think. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.